Hello and welcome back to Alter My Closet. I'm Jennifer. Hope you're all doing well today. So in my last video, I showed how I set up my workspace, just to make it functional and suitable for me. And since then, I added something else. So I wanted to share that as well as share some other little things, that I wanted to make mention of. Actually, I'm having my lunch, and this is a smoothie. I was challenged, with what to have for lunch today. So if you're having your lunch, or if you want to grab something, a drink or something like that, and chill out for about maybe 10-15 minutes with me, that would be really nice. But this is kale, apple, banana, chia smoothie. And I'll put the ingredients on the screen if I don't forget. Hopefully I'll put it up there. But yeah, it's a green smoothie. Very refreshing. What I did add some peanut butter to mine for protein. And what else did I add? A little bit of oats. So anyway. But yep, that's for my lunch. So you know what time of day it is for me. But it's getting nice outside. The only thing is there's a lot of pollen where I live, and so that has been messing with my sinuses. So I've been having the sniffles, sneezing, itchy eyes, stuff like that. But just gotta make do, trying to boost my immune system some type of way. So I'm gonna have to work on getting some elderberry. But yeah, today found this outfit, and I hooked it up with this necklace. This necklace was actually broken, and I was so glad I was able to fix it. And so I'm just wearing what do you call it? Kind of like a sheer top that has a lining underneath, so it's cool. And this will actually work with weight loss or weight gain, because it's a stretchy piece of fabric that's underneath. So this can stretch, or it can stay loose. And of course you can see the armpits. Not the armpits, but the way the arm is cut out, very loose, very free. And then it has a band around the waist. And these are pants that I made not too long ago. Let me bring this down. So it fits. The waist is elastic waist, so that works, right? So that's my outfit for today. So I have Bible study later. I'm hoping everything works according to plan and I'll be able to attend. So what I wanted to share was, in my last video I had a folding table with a nice piece of board that I placed on top of it to have enough room to put the TV, or I also used it for some sewing at some point, and I did do videos on that table, but I showed it in the last video. So I did make a little change to that piece, and I moved it from where it was. So I had this stand, and I used to use the stand for my TV as well, but I changed things around and was using it for something else. So I accumulated fabric And like I was saying in the last video where I worked at the fabric store, and what I, kind of like didn't mention, which I wanted to mention, was the way the fabric was displayed in the store. I always loved that, so I got the idea to replace the folding table with what I currently have right now. And so I was able to display my fabric the way I like to see them, So let me turn this around and show you. So, if you are a person who collects fabrics, display fabrics, this is a nice way that you can display it. And as you can see, what I did was to fold them and, layer them on top. Ideally, I was trying to colorize it, but as I found the fabric, as I went along, I didn't want to move them out and shift them around and all that, because it was just more work. So I just displayed them as is, and I think it gave a nice look to the variation in the colors. And so you will see going down to the bottom here. But I think that's just a nice way, like I said, and more organized. And what I did was to put the television on top. So that was just a change that I made. Yeah. But just to give an idea, like I said, of how you can display fabric in your sewing area. And so I've been hearing, by talking to others, the interest that some people have in sewing and, some of their hindrances and, getting to that point to start sewing. But I would say, not to be intimidated by it. I know the sewing machine, getting used to the sewing machine with this part here. This is the motor. And, this is the part that, you use to operate the machine pretty much, after plugging it in. But I am going to post a video just pretty much, I think I mentioned it in the last video too, just the basics of how to start. And I do know there are a lot of videos out there that are like that, but just for people that are in my network, and people in my neighborhood and area and people who watches me, can get a feel of, just the basics of that. And I did say I was going to do post the videos where I'll be making pillowcases and stuff like that. But yeah, not to be intimidated by the sewing machine. I was told by one church member how her dad actually recently bought a sewing machine. And then there's another friend of mine that her dad bought a sewing machine. So it looked like the men are even more brave than the women. Come on, women. But yeah, it would be nice. So hopefully my videos will inspire and help, others. But pretty much to start, of course you need your sewing machine. So when you're choosing your sewing machine, you want to make sure that it's something, you know, that you're comfortable with. You know, basic sewing machines. Not to buy those industrial type looking ones, you know, because you can go in the store and get caught up with just all the different types. But a basic sewing machine, such as this one, this is a Singer, and it's very easy to string. You know, it has, let me see, 1, 2, and these are numbered also in the areas where they need to be, you know, where the stringing takes place. So like here is number 1, then you have number 2, then 3, 4, and 5 under here. So they're numbered, you know, pretty much easy to follow. But I will go more in detail when I do that video with the, you know, just the basic stitching and all that. Okay, so yeah, just, you know, like I said, be aware of the type of machine, sewing machine that you're going to be purchasing, because you don't want to be intimidated by it. I did get a sewing machine for my daughter that's about, it stops right about here, the size of it. So it's a little smaller, more compact, and I got it from, I think it was from Michael's store. Michael sells a lot of, you know, like floral stuff. I think they carry fabric, flowers, baskets, you know, all that good stuff, you know, things that you use for craft projects, stuff like that. So yeah, hers is really like maybe, you know, this size here and more compact, even though it doesn't make a lot of difference as to the power of the machine. But you know, having it a little more compact and neater looking may not be as intimidating. So I would suggest you know, purchase a machine that's not too overpowering and, you know, neat. And then you want to have something where you can put your pins, you know. I know this looks a little bit messy, but, you know, these are pins, needles that I pull for when I am sewing. Sometimes I just leave the thread in because I may need it already strung. So something like this where you can hold your pins, like I said. If you don't find something like this, 1 second. You can always use something like this. So this is a nice, cute little pad. I believe I got this from Target in, you know, yeah, a while back. And believe it or not, this is actually a Christmas decor. It's it's an ornament actually, but I just thought it would be fancy. You know, it has the padding there, and so I use this, or I used it before I got this. But see, it will do the same thing there, you know, where I put my pins and needles. Okay, so that will work. And you want to invest in a nice pair of scissors. I went through different scissors, you know. There are some that were just the regular household ones, and I ended up with this one I got from Hobby Lobby. But sadly, this I got from Amazon actually. But sadly, this piece, the screw right here, just becomes loose ever so often. So I have to, you know, tighten the screw ever so often. I may have to find me pliers and try to put some, you know, power behind it where it stays. But yeah, get yourself a nice pair of scissors where you can cut because some of these scissors, you know, they get dull, and when you're cutting your fabric, you know, it may cause some problems at times. So you want to find one that will cut nicely. So let's see, you know, like that. Let's see how this cuts. Right, so you want something that flows right to where you're not having problems with cutting your fabric. All right. Yeah, but pretty much those are the basics of how you want to set up your sewing area. Having these little kits is a nice addition. This one, you know, have areas where you can hold these small threads. I'll tell you, these thread, you know, it just depends on the type of project that you're doing, because it doesn't hold much. So you can start off with these smaller threads, or you can invest in some of these cone thread that you can get from like Hobby Lobby. Maybe Michaels too. I haven't really bought any thread from Michaels, but I remember buying from Hobby Lobby. And in one of my videos, I spoke about the thread that I bought from Hobby Lobby, which were these brands here. I think it's called Sewology. And they were not a good brand of thread at all. They were very, you know, like when you sew with it, it kind of break in between sewing. So I wasn't impressed with that. But, you know, you may want to try the thread, like when you're buying it, just to pull on it and see if it breaks too easily, then walk away and try to, you know, test. Oh, maybe Walmart too. You could probably get, you know, better thread from Walmart. I did buy this one here from Walmart, and this is a good one. So there's this size also that you can start off with as a beginner, right? So here we have 3 different sizes of thread. So we have this small one, then we have this middle size one, and then we have this bigger one here. Okay, so yeah, those you can start off with. Another thing that people like, oh, oops, you want to get some machine oil as well. Okay, you know, over time your machine, like your car, does need oiling. So if you run into where your machine is making a different kind of sound than what you're used to, then you may want to look into, you know, oiling that. Oiling, most times it's under here that you need to oil, where the bobbin thread is. But when you oil it, you want to make sure you wipe that area properly so the oil doesn't get on your thread or on whatever you're sewing. And so, you know, you'd be using your oil. This brand is Dritz. Okay, and I got this one from Walmart. Okay. And then every now and then you want to, this comes with your sewing machine. It should. And every now and then you want to clean the fuzzies out of this area where the bobbin thread is. Because the fabric, when you sew, it builds up and causes fuzzies. So you will see that build up. You want to use this brush here and try and make sure you're cleaning that area out. So, you know, that's what this is for. And some people do use a thimble when they're sewing This is not for the sewing machine, but this is for, you know, like if you're sewing your pants hem. I did purchase some of these, but it's it doesn't really work for me because it just is not what do you call it, secure enough when I'm sewing. And usually it's this finger that you will use to, you know, maneuver the needle, the sewing needle. But some people, you know, use it. And I do think they have the silicone ones as well. There's another thing that I'm thinking of that I'm going to be using. I can't find it right now, but I'll show it when I'm doing my alterations, because you know, a lot of people use that to pull the thread out. But all else fails, if I don't have that, and I forgot what they call it, you know, I usually keep this on hand, and this is an eyebrow razor. But I use this when I am going in between seams to remove the thread. So this is something you can keep as well in your sewing area. What else? I like the pinking shear. And this just gives a finish to your clothing. So this is something that you can keep on hand as well. So yeah, just like I said, something that I wanted to share, you know, with what you can have in your sewing area. Those are just the basics pretty much. And when I do my video with the sewing, I'll go back over all this. You know, I don't know, just depends, more detail or you know, brief. But yeah, that's it for today. I also wanted to mention, I have a brother that gives some good tips on interviewing processes, you know, and you know, holding a job, and you know, making that career move and all that. So I'm gonna share his link in my video here. His name is Glenn Ford, or Glenn Patterson, I believe is what he goes by for short, instead of, you know, Glenn Ford. But yeah, I'll share his video. He, like I said, have some real good tips, and you know, preparation for interviews, that I know a lot of young people especially could use. So, you know, I'll share his link, like I said, so you can tune in to him and watch him, you know, and subscribe to his channel. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will be working on my next project, and you know, showing you how I'm going about my alterations. So, you know, you guys can hop on in and, you know, or get on board actually to get your stuff done as well. But you will see me on the next video, and you guys have a great rest of your day or evening, whatever it is that you're doing. Stay blessed. God loves you. And bye for now. Thank you for watching.